On March 18, the Minsk City Court issued high-profile accusations against Belarusian political scientists. 10 years in prison in the case of a conspiracy to seize power are awaiting the head of the monitoring group Belarus in Focus, Valeria Kostyugova, and the co-founder of the School of Young Managers in Public Administration, Tatiana Kuzina. Marina Zolotova, editor-in-chief, and Lyudmila Chekina, director of the Belarusian edition TUT.by, were also sentenced to 12 years in prison. The sentence was passed for alleged tax evasion, incitement to extremism, and threat to national security.
In fact, this is revenge. This is retribution, in a sense, to employees for the work of the 300-head company. I mean that we had almost 300 people working for us. This is the payoff for independent journalism. Kirill Voloshin, co-founder of the portal Tut.Belarus.
A week earlier, the self-proclaimed president of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, introduced the death penalty for high treason against officials and the military. Now Belarus is the only country in Europe whose legislation provides for the death penalty. The Belarusian opposition believes that this is another attempt to instill fear in the population and suppress anti-government sentiments.
When you are an official and you understand that any of your comments, posts, going out, even if your children take part in a street action, you can be sentenced for treason. After all, no one specifies what treason to the state is. It can be a post on Instagram, a comment on YouTube, or you speak in Belarusian and you are already recognized as a traitor to the motherland. So, of course, this punishment restrains people so that they do not run away.
Meanwhile, in Russia, people continue to be prosecuted for publishing songs, videos and pictures on social networks. Russian courts call them extremist materials. It is the Federation's legislation on extremism that has long been considered one of the main instruments of the persecution for dissent. But in the last year and a half, the number of cases has been decreasing. The reason is not the weakening of the regime, human rights activists say, but the appearance of articles about fakes and discrediting the army.
The article on the discrediting of the army apparently gave more cases in a year than earlier the most popular article on prohibited symbols, which used to be the leader in our extremist administrative legislation, always by a wide margin. The difference is huge because article about the discrediting of the Russian military started with huge figures. It all depends more on the individual. An arrest can be ordered if the judge or the police particularly disliked him in some way. Alexander Verkhovsky, director of the Russian Center for Information and Analysis Sava, in a commentary to the publication Current Time.
Demonstrative prosecutions for dissent, unjustified terms, censorship, denunciations, creation of lists of objectionable people, assignment of labels of enemies of the state. All these are common practices not only for Belarus and Russia, but also to varying degrees for all countries of the Collective Security Treaty Organization, Armenia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan.
As for the CSTO countries, we must understand that frankly, very rotten, corrupt satellite regimes of Moscow have developed in these states. De facto, these are countries that do not have their own sovereignty and are in the sphere of foreign policy and military political influence of Moscow, and therefore Moscow, thanks to its numerous agents and exerting economic, political, legal, informational and other pressure on these states, seeks to do so in order to establish there, as there is such a definition in political science, the stationary bandit model.
Reported by Diana Kulesnik, Valeria Nekipelova, UATV News.